Hello everyone, my name is Paulina and welcome to episode 1 of the Planetary Report. This is a monthly series I plan on doing, analyzing and making predictions for the astrological transits of the weeks ahead. How this will work is I will give my predictions and thoughts on the upcoming week's transits before answering a few questions and then finishing it off by reading someone's birth chart. If you're interested in sending in questions or getting your birth chart analyzed on video, please check out the Patreon link below. That's where I'm going to be getting the questions and birth charts from. I'll also offer more predictions specific to each zodiac sign and other information on my Patreon, along with private birth chart consultations, so please consider donating to keep this series alive. Thank you! Before we head into the August predictions, I just want to put in a disclaimer. First and foremost, I am definitely not a professional astrologer by any means. I've been studying it for 3 years now, but the best of the best have been doing this for decades. So obviously, I'm an amateur. I don't claim to know everything and get everything right all the time. Ideally, I wanted to make this as a practice for me to test my analysis and prediction skills and document my improvement over time. Please don't take this video as gospel. There's so much to look at within astrology. I'm 99% sure I probably missed something super important while looking at these charts, but I tried my best. So, with that said, let's move on to the August reports. So here I have the chart for August 1st pulled up. The sun has already moved into Leo, which is one of my favorite seasons, and I'm really happy. I always just feel happy in Leo season. I don't know. And Mercury has stationed direct by now. Thank God. Other than that, though, there's actually a lot of difficult aspects going on. So, you might have already known, but Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto have been conjunct in Capricorn for a while. Actually, pretty much exactly for as long as COVID has sprung up and been a problem. It's interesting how COVID sprung up right as the conjunction began in January. I want to be positive about the stellium, but let's be real, 2 out of the 3 of these planets are malefic and represent illness, societal constraints, and general bad luck. Jupiter represents good luck, fortune, but also expansion. There's lots of documentation that states that Pluto conjunct Jupiter is a good time to explore your hobbies and talents and find success, financial success even, as it's in Capricorn. And that seemed to have been happening for many people since quarantine has allowed them to pursue their hobbies. But I also believe that there's a dark side to every Pluto aspect, personally. Obviously, COVID has been crazy and will probably continue to be crazy. The world will probably continue to struggle to contain the virus and its societal impacts until Jupiter, the planet of expansion, weakens its conjunction with Pluto. Until then, I think it's going to be having a tug of war with Saturn as the chaos is continuously dealt with via new laws and restrictions. I also think the effects of Saturn in Capricorn in so many negative aspects in this power struggle with Jupiter hint at a societal unrest and displeasurement with traditions, laws, and the government. This is emphasized with Uranus's trine with Jupiter, which I believe is a good sign for the people, since Uranus represents revolution and rational progression. I could make a whole video on Uranus's current placement in Taurus and how it's basically the trademark for political unrest and radical changes in society, how Uranus is the planet of scientific and progressive change and improvement, while Taurus is the sign of tradition and conserving the old. So when they come together, conflict happens, usually between an outdated belief system full of people who refuse to let go of it and activists who push for the system to be disposed of. The last time Uranus was in Taurus was in World War II. Anyway, perhaps this will translate into new laws and regulations regarding COVID being put up, and in my opinion, Aries Mars trine Leo Sun indicates they won't be taken too well. Fiery Mars equals aggression and maybe even violence, and we all know Leo has some stubborn energy. I love Leos so much, and they deserve the world, but some people don't deserve the confidence and entitlement that I think Leo energy gives to people. I feel like we're going to see a lot of Karens complaining about having to wear a mask and blowing up at grocery stores and shit, especially since Mars is square that whack-ass stellium. The stellium square Mars and the Jupiter trine Uranus might also translate to more protests regarding Black lives and police reform. If so, I think the results will be mixed. I think there will be an impact that is worth it, but due to the Mars and Mercury aspects, I think there may be violent counter-protests or disorganization, so please be careful and be safe. Now, yeah, I haven't even gotten to Mercury yet. Mercury is forming a T-square with the Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto stellium that points towards Aries-Mars. Mercury is stationed direct now, so we can't blame retrograde for any mishaps. What instead I think might happen is that Mercury will come through in the form of a viral video that might spark outrage and lead to more protests. Or, more specifically, because Mercury is in Cancer here and the moon is also square Mars and Chiron, a mother trying to seek justice for her child online. That might happen. But that's just my amateur prediction, we'll see. In general, this week, stay safe from COVID and try to avoid conflicts that can lead to violence. Please try to abide by any new regulations and stop trying to argue with customer service people for following the laws the governor instated that they have no hand in. Thank you! Now we move on to August 7th. I just went by sevens in my, in deciding which, charts to look at. By the 7th, the moon will be in a weak conjunction with Neptune in Pisces, and be sextile the problematic stellium, which is still square Mars. Moon Neptune is also square Venus. Throughout the conjunction of the moon and Neptune will be a time of high sensitivity and confusion in your life in general, but also specifically involving COVID and society. The spike in sensitivity can be good because it will spark action against any potential injustice, but also can cause disorientation, which might translate into misunderstandings that can lead to the outrage being directed towards the wrong people. It's a double-edged sword. The emotion will motivate people to do something about an issue, which is better than nothing, but actual progress might be delayed due to miscommunication and confusion, which is what Mercury opposite Saturn and square Uranus always says to me. In my research, I read that Moon conjunct Neptune will make people hypersensitive to others' feelings to the point of getting physically ill. This sensation might skyrocket whenever these planets enter your 6th house, so keep an eye for that. This feeling is so overwhelming that it may be hard to think straight and you might be taken advantage of and deceived, so be careful. If you have a lot of Earth in your chart, especially Virgo, it might be a bit easier for you to think rationally and filter out the delusions during this time. But if you're like me with a billion Pisces placements, you're fucked. The moon square Venus also makes this week a slightly difficult time for relationships. Obviously, when you look at everything else, you see delusions, misunderstandings, miscommunication, which inherently can hurt a relationship too. But the hyper-emotional moon in Pisces, in a difficult aspect with the pleasure-seeking Venus in Gemini, can also indicate recklessness, restlessness, loneliness, impulsive decisions you'll regret later, and saying things you don't mean, and things like that. For a strong, stable relationship, I think this week will be just a potential blip of annoyance. An argument that leaves one of you sleeping on the couch or staying with a friend, a nonchalant comment that one of you takes the wrong way, that escalates, but nothing deal-breaking. Especially because Venus is also conjunct the true node at this point, which points towards good luck and comfort, so it kind of helps counteract the discomfort of the square. However, if you're already having doubts about your relationship, this time might just cement that for you. You might find someone who treats you way better than your current partner and realize how mistreated you've been, or your partner might admit something shitty to you while drunk. It's hard to say definitively, that the signals you see during this time will be trustworthy, because once again, moon conjunct Neptune, confusion, misunderstandings, stuff like that. So don't be too paranoid and stressed, because the paranoia itself might become the thing putting a strain on the relationship, What I recommend is to try to hang out with friends you love and trust during this time. Venus in Gemini is seeking that kind of companionship especially, and to have someone to talk your concerns and suspicions out with, if you have any, also helps clarify things. And please resist making impulsive romantic or financial decisions during this time, because you will definitely regret them later. I'm just happy that Chiron has been laying low the past week here, because I'm just happy that Chiron has been laying low the past week here, because I don't know if you guys been having a massive healing process from past trauma this past month or two, but I have, and it is exhausting, and I feel so much lighter and relieved to get a break from it. So now we're moving on to August 14th and the week after. So finally things look a little less hectic. Mars is still square the stellium, and now the moon is square Neptune instead of conjunct it. However, Mercury and the sun are now conjunct and trine Mars. You could see the moon is forming a nice little minor triangle with Mars and Mercury and the sun. Plus, she's in Gemini, so I truly believe whatever misunderstandings and conflicts that might have brewed in the past weeks can get worked out and clarified here. This will be the best time for self-expression, especially for Leos and Geminis. I'm really excited about this time. This might be a busy time in your life. You might have to finish a bunch of work and projects you put off from last week when you were enjoying your time with your friends. Hopefully, you'll feel productive and energized at this time. Mars sextile moon gives passion and enthusiasm and possible improvements in a relationship. So like I said in the previous week, stable and strong relationships will be fine this month. You guys are gonna be just fine. Based on what I've been reading, which is primarily from Astrology King, who I recommend a lot, I'll link his website down below. Moon square Neptune will bring more disorientation and strangeness that might leave you questioning reality. Welcome to the world of a Pisces. Try to avoid drugs and alcohol at this time, or be aware that your tolerance will be lower than normal. Don't let yourself become too swamped in work. I think this week will be the time to work hard and then play hard. Reward yourself after finishing your projects by indulging in lighthearted entertainment and things like that, because with Moon and Neptune aspecting again, you're going to be really hypersensitive and empathetic, and probably should avoid heavy things like sad movies or songs. And lastly, please be aware that people might take advantage of your empathy at this time and deceive you. Take caution. Moving on, we got August 21st and the week following. Here's a weird looking chart in my opinion. This is for the 21st, and on this particular day there's this weird almost grand trine happening that was probably fully formed a few days prior between the moon, Uranus, and Jupiter, which is an epic combo, indicating to me clarity and realization in your feelings after multiple weeks of confusion and potential lies. Is great. Earth grand trines represent wisdom. Earth, as you may know, is the element most associated with science, the material world, factual information. You get the idea. Around this time, I believe if you have been deceived or fallen victim to misinformation in the past few weeks, the truth will become clear to you. And it is then just your responsibility to accept it or continue living in what you thought was the truth. Moon opposite Neptune might make this decision difficult for you. Along with Pluto opposite Venus, there might be another small strain on your relationship, so I really advise you to be as honest and clear with your intentions as possible during this time with your significant other, and also just in general. The sun is still conjunct Mercury, so this will help you with being clear and easy to understand, so it's not like everything is totally against your favor here. And lastly, relax, because Neptune is messing with your brain around this time and could possibly make you needlessly paranoid and anxious that your friends secretly hate you or something silly like that. Try to avoid overanalyzing things, just let the truth come to you, and spend your days around this time laying low and leisurely. That's my advice. Finally, we have August 28th and the last few days of August. So, holy hell, the grand trines here. There's so many? Does this happen a lot? We have Uranus, Jupiter, Mercury, Uranus, Moon, the Sun, Uranus, Mercury, the Moon, Mars, the Moon, and the Sun. Those are all grand trines with each other, along with two mystic rectangles. Holy hell. This is gonna be the second coming of Jesus or something like this. This sounds like a great day. This is a really nice way to end the month, in my opinion. Lots of earth power, lots of wisdom and grounding. This would be a great time to stay at home and work on your passions and hobbies, in my opinion. I feel like everyone's artistic capabilities will be enhanced at this time, with all the earth energy, especially Taurus, and Venus's placement. Things you should avoid at this time: excessive drinking or drug use, excessive buying. Please stay safe. I truly believe something very spectacular will happen at this time. At least I hope. I really hope. Maybe like a cure for COVID or something? Just kidding, we're probably gonna suffer with this shit for a long ass while. Thank you for listening to my August predictions. Next up would typically be a Q&A section where my patrons may ask questions and I select some to answer. Since this is episode 1, I have no questions yet, so I thought instead I would answer some of the most frequently asked questions about astrology in general. So first off, what is astrology? Astrology is the study of societal and human behavioral patterns in relation to the orbital patterns of the planets and other celestial bodies in our solar system. It's not magic or psychic work, although it is used in many spiritual belief systems and has existed in nearly every single culture on Earth. Rather, it is a centuries upon centuries old study of the predictability of human life and how snugly it syncs with the rotations of the planets. It's quite mysterious and interesting how certain patterns light up so perfectly with patterns exhibited outside of our Earth, such as menstrual cycles with the phases of the moon. Astrology takes these anomalies into account and analyzes them. How often does a huge war break out somewhere in the world? When do civilizations tend to go from devoutly religious to unapologetically scientific? From agricultural to industrial? From monarchical to democratic? All of these kinds of trends and so much more, down to the most minute physical attributes seen on a person's face, are all analyzed and documented in astrology. So how the hell can you find out all that kind of information just from what month someone was born in? You don't. True astrology takes into account the exact year, month, day, hour, minute, and location of your birth. Your birth chart is unique to you, as a snapshot of the sky from a geocentric viewpoint from the location you were born, at the exact minute you were born. It's not just your sun sign, contrary to popular belief. Every planet's location in the sky at the moment you were born is documented and analyzed. Even still, we've lost centuries of documentation on astrology throughout history, so we can only glean so much from what we have. Plus, it is of my personal belief that while patterns rule over every facet of existence, they aren't invincible. Everyone has free will, and a birth chart isn't a death sentence, just a pointer for how life would probably go for you if you did nothing to defy the natural order of the universe. I'm a Virgo, Leo, Pisces, etc. What does that mean? That means you should look up your birth time and location and come back to me. Can you figure out two people's compatibility with astrology? Yes! It's called a synastry chart, where basically you plop the two people's charts on top of each other and see how their planets aspect. This can indicate pleasing and problem areas in their relationship. There's also composite charts, which can tell you overall what the nature of the relationship is like. I give synastry readings on my Patreon, along with my normal birth chart readings. What's the worst sign, most annoying sign, etc.? No one sign is inherently bad or annoying or anything like that. There's a light side and a dark side to every characteristic a sign holds. For instance, the passion of the fire signs can translate to productivity or aggression. The caution of earth signs can translate to good decision-making or stubbornness. Not all fire-dominant people are aggressive, and not all earth-dominant people are stubborn. Everyone has the possibility of being good or bad. That's all the questions I could think of for now, so moving on. In this section, I would like to analyze a person's own personal birth chart and note the parts that stand out the most. It can be completely anonymous if you want, and I'll never show your birth information or anything, just the chart. If you're interested in that, please consider donating to my Patreon and I can get started on your birth chart analysis for next month. Since this is the first episode, I just decided to analyze a friend's birth chart. And I thought she would be the perfect fit for episode 1 because her name is Lilith. Isn't that just the coolest ever? So here's the chart. As you can see, she's a fellow Pisces just like me, and her personal planets have an overwhelming amount of water with some fire and some earth. I'm not going to do a full analysis of her chart because that would take literal hours, but I'll point out a few things that I find interesting. So with people who are predominantly water and fire comes a lot of mood swings and a lot of emotions. We can see the hyper-emotional Pisces sun opposite the analytical Virgo moon, which can point towards a lot of inner conflicts and struggling to grapple and handle your feelings. The moon is in the first house, which also points towards a very emotion-driven person, someone who is passionate and empathetic, perhaps to a downfall, as it forms a T-square with her sun that points towards Pluto in 4th house Sagittarius. Both Pluto and Chiron in the 4th house makes me want to give her a hug because they both indicate childhood trauma. Pluto specifically pointing towards possible neglect or abandonment that now, as indicated by the T-square, has caused her to develop severe attachment issues and fear of abandonment. Pluto trine 8th house Aries Venus conjunct Jupiter to me implies that this trauma feeds into her impulsive and intense love life and her big heart that leads her to being hurt a lot. The main areas of issue that Pluto causes based on the T-square are in her family life, the 4th house, her love life, the 7th house, and her own self-perception, which is the 1st house. I feel very happy that she has 11th house Cancer though, because to me, that indicates a really nice, nurturing core of friends and also independence and the ability to take care of herself since the moon is in the 1st house. The Pisces energy and the Mercury conjunct Jupiter sextile Neptune speaks to a poetic, flowery way of writing. Very emotion-driven. I think it's really nice that she has an Earth moon to help balance all of the emotion-heavy aspects so that she can like self-analyze and acknowledge reality in between all of this like intense passion and emotions of the rest of her chart. Especially for instance like Scorpio Mars trine Pisces Sun. She's not afraid to defend herself. Scorpio Mars to me screams instinctively protective. The sextile with the Virgo moon also indicates to me that she would take action in the face of danger if she feels threatened. Pisceans are known to be intuitive, but sometimes rely too much on their emotions to the point where they delude themselves, so the Earth moon is once again a nice balancer in my opinion. Lastly, I noticed her midheaven was empty, which I don't see often. Looking at Taurus's ruling planet, Venus, we see it is in the Aries 8th house, a very unconventional placement for hints at future careers. To me, it reads that Lilith may never have a conventional stereotypical 9-to-5 job, and that's okay because I know her and she hates capitalism. Either she will find a financial flow through under the table or illegal jobs, artistic ventures, or just jump from job to job sporadically for most of her life. Those are my predictions based on the 8th house placement of the Venus. Okay, so that's all I have today. Thank you so much to Lilith for letting me read her birth chart. Thank you to everyone who supplies valuable astrology resources online for novices like me to learn from. I'll link some of my favorites down below. And thank you to everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was informative, and I hope you consider donating to my Patreon or booking a birth chart analysis with me to keep this project going. Twitter and all other socials will be linked below. Thank you so much. See you later.